Yes, do we have a checkpoint today?
I don't think so. No,
Oh, no?
I don't see it.
Okay.
No checkpoint.
Maybe not. Maybe it's, I thought, maybe
I was
next
thinking the
on
same thing.
Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, no checkpoint.
Okay, cool.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So we are kicking off week number 7. Is that correct? Yes. All right. Week number 7. So, so we've been doing this for 6 complete weeks. So remember, we started with our front end as in like we started with HTML, CSS, and then we dived into JavaScript, right? We learned how to make our websites more interactive, such as click functionality, how to capture those things. Then we looked at jQuery, okay? At jQuery, we kind of completed these are the technologies that we can use to make our web page. All right. Even any of the jQuery is also a library that you're using that has JavaScript behind it. But then we transitioned into Ajax, right? How do we get the data, right? So within the first part, I would say that could be like a middleware, that this is where your data is hosted and you're making Ajax calls and getting the data. Okay. The last part of that puzzle is you have your front end, you have your middleware, you have all the data. Now how do you store it, or where do you store it? Okay. That's what this week is about, right? So after this week, you will have all the tools to create a project that actually has a front end that makes calls, Ajax calls, gets the data, and you can also store the data somewhere. Okay. So this week we are going to look at some storage options that we have, or what we would say, how do we persist our data? Okay, so we have all this data, we get it. Now what do we do with it, right? We show it on the screen, maybe user does something. Now how do we capture and make sure that we have that data? Okay, so this week we are going to look at some persisting strategies. Before we get to that, what we'll do is we'll do 2 exercises, and we are going to build an app without any persistence, without any storage. This is just simple jQuery JavaScript apps, and then we're going to study the storage part, and then we are going to come back to these 2 apps and then implement storage into it. Okay, so let's start with the first activity. Again, these are simple jQuery apps right now, with nothing to do with storage as of yet. So the first one is number 1, called to-do list. In this, you're going to be creating a jQuery to-do list that kind of shows up. Let me show you how it looks like eventually, and then you guys are going to go ahead and work on it. So this would be the final outcome. You can add some items over here. Okay, these should be added like this. Okay, some items, and then you're going to this check mark over. If I check this, it deletes it. Basically, it's saying I have done this thing. Okay, you saw it went away. I did this, so this goes away. Okay, again, this is all. This is nothing that we haven't done. Might look crazy or something super difficult, but let's take a look at the code. It's just using jQuery, and that's what we are going to complete. Okay. Um, we'll take 15 minutes, and I'm confident you guys should be able to complete this. It's not as bad as it looks like. Instructions are pretty clear, so take 15 minutes and complete this app. And then we will work on a second app, and then we will dive into how do we store this data. She started at 5, 4. All right. Do we need 5 more minutes or okay? As long as you guys are making progress. Again, it's jQuery. Hopefully, it makes sense. If it doesn't, please make sure you are catching up on jQuery. Again, this is no new concept. So you guys keep working on it, and I'm going to start at least a little bit coding. If you are stuck, please take a look at it. Again, instructions. I'm just going to follow the instructions over here. Okay. So let's see. Create an initial to-do count variable. Simple. Let to-do count. Give it a number 0. I keep forgetting my shortcut for formatting. Okay, so that's one thing done. Click event, that's good. Prevent default, we understand that. Get the to-do value from the text box and store it in a variable. Okay, and what is a text box? It's this input box over here, and the ID is to-do. So I want to capture whatever the text is entered over here. Okay. Same thing, just using jQuery here. So capture it in a variable. Let's call it let to do task using jQuery, and we are looking for this ID. Okay, and how do I capture the value? Dot val function, and this will give me the value that whatever you enter in this text box. Nope, still keep forgetting the key. No. It is Option Shift F. All right. Create a new variable that will hold the p tag. Straightforward again. Create a variable var to do. Let's call it p tag. Variable that will hold the p tag. To do p. Okay. How do we create a tag in jQuery with this thing? Okay. So that's done. Then give it an ID in the following form. So my p tag is going to have an ID. So in HTML, it should look something like this. ID is equal to item dash a number. Oops. Right? Eventually in HTML, this is how it should look. That's what it's saying, right? Then give it an ID. So if I have to give it an ID to an element, this is how I do it. Of the following form, item dash 4, 3, anything, where the number is equal to to-do count. Okay, so this number is coming from our to-do count. So how do we add an ID to our p tag? To do p dot attribute, and I'm adding an ID attribute. Okay, and the value is going to be let's use our template literals. The value is going to be item dash and then to do count. So I have a variable declared to do count on the top right. Just use that variable to do count. Okay, so this means if to do count is 1, the ID is going to be item 1. If to do count is 2, it's going to be item 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then set the to do value as text to the p element. So let's go ahead and complete that. To do p dot text, the text is going to be the value that we captured on line number 50, which is to do task. Okay, so we captured this text, the value that we captured on line number 50. Okay, moving on, create the button with a unique identifier based on what the number it is in the list. Again, use jQuery to do this. So let's go ahead and create a button. How do we create a button? Let's say var to do button, and we create a button. Okay, and then give your button attribute called data to do. So attribute data dash, remember from the previous one, data is a new attribute in HTML, so this means we are assigning some string to it and a class called checkbox. Okay, so to do button dot attr, and then we are adding a data attribute called data dash to dash do. Okay, and the value is going to be what's the value going to be over here? Give your button a data attribute called data to do and a class called checkbox. What is the value for this attribute? Oop, here we go. Let me complete, this one looks easier. So to do button dot text, and then I'm going to copy the message that I sent on Slack. I forgot the checkbox class. So to do button dot add class, and then give it a class of checkbox. So let's get this checkbox. Okay. This is still missing. What do I have to give over here? I'm creating an attribute, but not sure what do I have to give here. Create a unique, create a button with unique identifier based on what the number it is in the list. Okay, and what is the number? To do count, right? That's the number that we have declared over here. Okay, so basically we have to give to do count. That's the only number we have in our code over here. Okay, append the button to the to do item. To do item. So let's go ahead and append this to do. This is our, I think we called it p tag as our item. Okay, yeah, so append it to our p tag. Append to do button. Add the button and to do item to the to do's div. Let's get that div. What is it? Hash to hash to do's. Okay, append that to do to do item. What is a to do item? Anybody complete that? What is this to do item over here? It's my to do task. No, it has to be an element. So it's, I think it's this p tag that I added. I called it p tag. So I'm adding a, let's see what to do's is, right? So you guys must have created a p tag and you are basically adding over here. So this thing, and I'm adding my p tags to it. Okay, so that's my p tag. Okay, clear the text box when it is done. So dollar ID for text box is this thing. Okay, and then dot just set the value to empty string. Okay, add the count. So this means we are increasing the count plus this. Okay, let's see, when the user clicks the checkbox, it should be deleted. Get the number of the button from its data attribute and hold it to two numbers. So let's go ahead and do let create a variable called to do. Okay, and we are getting the data attribute, so we have to use the this dot attr and then our data attribute, which is data dash dash to do, this one. Right, this is the only data attribute that we have, so that's what we are going to use. So we get the number that we want to delete, and then select and empty the specific p tag. So dollar specific p tag would be by ID. Let's say item dash. Let's use a template, literals. So how do I get the ID? It's going to be item dash and that count that we just captured in the above scenario, which is to do number. Okay, and then this should go ahead and remove our item. Okay, so we captured the number, which gives us, remember in the previous we were creating these IDs, item dash some number. So in this, when somebody clicks on it, we are capturing from our data attribute that we set, get the number, attach it to the item, and this will be the correct ID. and then we go ahead and remove that. Okay, let's test it out to make sure this is working. Something to do, and then it adds it over here. Something else. Okay, it's adding there. It's adding at the bottom. I mean there, and then you can click. If I remove this, okay, just adding at the bottom. I think the solution was to add at the top. Would it be add the button to this one, or is it this one? It's one of these. This one. Prepen. No, still adds. I think it's the bottom one. This one over here. Yeah. Okay, and then remove this, remove this, remove this, and this. Okay. Questions? Still not straightforward? Oh, this one I copied it. So I sent it on the Slack. Yeah, it's just a string. Anyway, so you guys get it? Well, I was hoping the was would be able to complete it. But if you did not, oh, you did? Okay. Anybody else completed it? Okay. So, so the TAs will post the solution because we are going to be taking this and we are going to add storage to this box, to this app also. Now, what's the issue with this is it works fine, but the only thing is now if you refresh this page, everything goes away, right? Why? Because everything over here is what we call in memory. That's why it goes away. So our target today is to capture this, that when I hit refresh, it doesn't go away. And the only way to do it is we persist that data. Okay? So um, next we are going to come to that. All right, let's try this again. So we'll make another app that we are going to use. Again, same thing, just jQuery. There's nothing different about this one as well. No, don't worry, there's no data layer, there's no nothing. What we are trying to do in this one is also just create an app that we are going to fix it later. All this app does is you already have this page given to you. Okay, this is hard coded in the HTML. So the goal of this app is when you enter this information, it kind of replaces this and updates it with a new information. Okay. Um, let's see if I enter some information. It should. And then if I click submit, it just replaces over here. Okay. So if you put a different name, all it does is it just updates this card on the right. Okay. So we'll take 15 minutes again. Please take a look at it. Again, it's just jQuery and JavaScript. There's no anything else. And if you are done, if you refresh it, everything kind of disappears because we are not persisting. And this is hard coded in our HTML. That's why it always shows up. So let's go ahead and take 15 more minutes and see if we can complete this one. These two exercises would be our basis for today's lesson, and we'll be coming back to these two and kind of making it more persistent. So, so you already have Bootstrap given. Don't have to worry about that. course, you have less hints in this one. I was hoping you guys should be comfortable with the first one. That's why I had a lot more comments. This one is less comments, kind of expectation is you guys know what to do. Actually, to be honest, this is actually a little bit more simpler than the previous one. Capture user inputs and store them into variables. Take a look at the HTML. These are our user inputs: name, email, age, and the question, how did you hear about us? Look at those IDs and just use the val function. And you should be able to get the user inputs. Console log them, and then look at the IDs for, oh, where's my, oh, there. IDs for each one of them, and then just put those variable data into those. You guys done with this one? No one? Come on. No one has completed this activity? It's too hard? Okay, I'm not okay. Yeah, I feel better now. Good? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I was like, what's going on? So you are just getting um, text from the IDs and then console logging and then putting it back on the next HTML these tags over here. That's all. So let me. Looks like people are done. So I'm hoping almost everybody got this. This is, as I said, is simpler than the previous one. So capture user inputs. Let's capture the name. Okay, and these are our IDs from over here. Input boxes. These ones. So I have name input, email input, age, and comment input. So I need to get these IDs. jQuery get this dot val. Okay. Email, same thing, dollar, and this is going to be email input, and I'm missing a hash so that this wouldn't work. There. And then get the value for email, same thing with the age, dollar, hash, age input, dot val. This gives me this thing. The last one is the comment, dollar, hash, and then change it to comment input dot val. Okay. Just to verify these things, let's go ahead and console log all of them. Console log name, console log email, console log age, and then console log comment. Okay. That should be it for this part. So we captured and we console log. Before we proceed, we can quickly check this out in our console. Let's go console. Let's see. This something. Okay, if I click submit, ooh, okay, these are working. Something happened to my comment. It's comment. I blame it on autocorrect. It should do it for me. Okay, so my console logs are working. The last one is output all of the new information back to the HTML, and the HTML is these with the same IDs, kind of similar name, display. So I'm going to copy one and replace all of them. So how do we do this? Dollar, capture the ID name, set the text, set the text back to what we have captured above, and this is going to be the variable name. Okay. The next one is email. So same thing is going to be email display, and then I'm capturing email. The third one is age. ID is age display and age. And the last one is the comment, and then comment. Okay. That should be it. Let's go ahead and test this out really quickly. So console log is good. Don't have to worry about that one. Let's see if this works. This is good. Okay. If I click submit, and all of them show up. So this code is good. Okay. All right. I am hoping almost everybody got this. This was a lot more simpler than the previous one, to be honest, and this is all that was required. Okay. All right. So the problem with this one is also the same thing. If you refresh, you see everything goes away and we come back to the default one. Okay. The TAs will slack out the solution for this one because we are going to use these two to fix this issue. If you got to the solution, that's good. You don't have to worry about the solution. If you did not, please go back and redo jQuery. Okay. And then use the solution. All right. So now we come back to our topic of the day, data persistence. Okay. So we saw the issue with both apps that if you refresh, everything goes away. And the reason is because everything is in memory. Okay. We are not actually saving it anywhere. Okay. So the concept is called data persistence. Data persistence. is minutes. Okay. Or storage also, data storage. So we are going to look at we are going to take a look at two types of storage this week: client storage and server storage. Okay. Client versus server storage. Okay. Again, between these two, client storage is a lot more easier than the server storage. So we are going to spend today learning about client storage, and then the next 2 days learning server storage. Okay, server or the back end is always going to be tougher than the front end. Okay, so today we are going to look at client storage. But before we start looking into this, I want to make sure that you guys understand the difference between client storage and server storage. Okay. Now, when I talk about client storage, what is the client? What am I referring to? Anything else? I'm looking for a different word. Website. And where is the website running on? Internet. But what are you using? Browser. Okay. So when I talk about client, I'm talking about browser storage, right? When I say client storage, this means our browser has capability to store data. Okay, that's when we talk about client storage, that's what we're talking about. It doesn't matter what browser it is, Chrome, Safari, Mozilla Firefox, any browser. The important part over here is when I talk about client storage, I'm talking about browser. So this means my browser has capability to store data. Okay, now when I talk about server storage, what am I talking about? External source. What else? Computer look. Who's saying that? I can't. Oh, you're saying that? Yeah, a computer that is located somewhere else that has data. And what do we call that? Data server, database, those things. Okay. Now, what is the? That is your server storage. So that means there is a box somewhere else. These it's cloud for us. Okay. So there's a box that is giving a space, right? And there we store our data. Okay. Client means the data is stored in the browser. Server storage means it's stored somewhere that we don't know. Okay, but we have access to it. Right. Now, another difference between this is space. Which do you think has more space, the client storage or the server storage? Server. Okay. Client is browser. They give you space, but the space is extremely limited. Okay. I think it's like 5 MB. That's it. Server, it's in GBs and terabytes and petabytes. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, but we still need to store some information on the client, even though the space is limited. Why would you do that? Like, why would I store some information on my client versus storing on the server? Why can't I just store everything on the server and then not over here? Yes, boss. Excellent. You guys heard that? Faster access. Okay, it's always going to be faster than going to the server. Again, server is located somewhere else. We don't know. How do we access the server? Using HTTP, right? It's going to be a URL. Remember our APIs. Our APIs are the guardians that have some data. So I have to go to an API, get to the data source, get the information, and come back. Versus client, it's everything is over here. Okay, and then I can get the information faster. All right. So that's the good part. What's the bad part? Like, why would I not store information over here? Or what kind of information I will not store on my client side? Excellent. Security issues. Okay. Please create a login page. When they enter password, store everything in your client storage. Is that a good idea? No. Right? Please don't store passwords, social security numbers, anything which is what we call PCI compliant. You will get fined millions of dollars. Don't do that. Okay, so security issues. There is absolutely no security on the client side. Okay, so that's why we store information that we think that we know for sure will not affect anything, unsecured, something that will help our website to function faster. Okay, that's we store everything in the client side. Okay, but the disadvantage is this is not secure, so do not store anything information that is going to create a security breach. For all that purpose comes your server storage. Okay, your server is more secure. That is the purpose of that. So that's why any information that has to be secured goes in your server side. Okay, faster but not secure, slower, secure, extremely less capacity or space, a lot of space. Okay. All right. Any questions? No questions? Good. Everybody understand the concept? Okay. So as I said, today we are going to look at the time storage. Remove this. We'll talk about time storage. Okay. So there are three concepts that we are going to look at from the client storage perspective. The first one is called local storage. Second is session storage, and the third is cookies. Okay, not the cookies that you eat, but the cookies that are stored in your browser. So we are going to take a look at local storage, session storage, and cookies. Okay. Now, from the course perspective, from the homework perspective, the first two are more important, local storage and session storage. Okay. But as a web developer, I feel like everybody should be aware of cookies and they should know how to manipulate cookies also. Okay. From the course perspective, homework, you're not going to be using cookies, but as a web developer, I feel like that you guys should be aware of this, right? I mean, how else are you going to spy on people who are visiting your website, right? I mean, you need cookies for that. So I think as a web developer, cookies is a important tool to understand and see how do you manipulate those cookies. Okay, so I'll show you example of all three of them. The first two again are more important. If you get cookies, it's good. If you don't, just keep maybe bookmark it and come back to it in the future. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at our local storage first. Okay, so before I show you any code, you can actually go to your browser and look at all three of them. Okay, so if you go to your Chrome, go to applications, and Chrome has a nice interface over here for all three of them: local storage, session storage, and cookies. Okay, so we'll start with local storage. Any information that we store in our local storage, it's going to show up over here. Okay, any information that we store in our session is going to show up over here, or our cookies are going to show up over here. Okay, again, Chrome inspect tool and then the applications tab, and this is where all your storage is. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and look at some code and look at all three of them. Applications tab. Applications tab. This one. Did you find it, Chris? That's okay. Just write it down, and then when we are solving something, we can come back to it and make sure it is there. For now, it's more important that you understand the concept. But this is where all our information is going to be. Okay. So let's go ahead and do I have the code up? Yeah. So the first example, local storage. Again, these are my index stubbed out pages. It has nothing in it, only the connection between this JavaScript file and index. Okay, I did it so that I don't have to keep redoing this. Okay, I'm going to start with this one. And remember, these are all JavaScript functions, right? Nothing to do with jQuery. These storage functions, they come built in with JavaScript. Okay. When you complete your example that we have seen, you're going to be using jQuery to fill that information. But again, you are using JavaScript functions to access all three of them. Okay? Nothing to do with jQuery. All right. So the API, I'm calling it API for a reason because this is an API, right? Remember our definition of an API, anything that gives you access to something behind the scenes. So this is the variable. This is the API that gives us access to local storage. Literally, it's called local storage. Okay, local storage is an object. Of course, this is JavaScript. Everything is an object. So local storage has functions that will let you set your local storage, get items from your local storage, and also clear the local storage and remove items from local storage. Okay. Now, for example, if I want to store something in my local storage, the function is called set item. Okay, the parameters or the arguments are what we call key value pairs. Okay, the key would be what you're trying to store, and then a value would be the data that goes inside that key. Okay, for example, I'm trying to store name. Okay, remember from our example we have our form which has name, age, and all that stuff. Let's suppose I'm trying to store the name. Okay, and then this would be the value. Then what am I trying to store in this variable? Okay. Again, local storage. This is the API or the object, and then it has a function called set item. Set item takes in two arguments. The first is the key. That is how your local storage will be defined, and then what value goes inside this key. It's like literally like a variable, and you're assigning some value to it. That's what it is. Okay. So if I run this code, let's go back here, shows up. Okay, inspect applications, and then we are looking at local storage, and there it is. You see the name. Okay, let me do one more. So let's suppose I want to store age as well. I'm going to say local storage dot set item. This time it's going to be age, and then it's going to be age. It's a number, but you can see I'm using string. Okay, if you look at the definition of this function, it takes in both have to be a string. Okay, you see this key string, value string. That's the only acceptable form. Okay, so you have to give it as a string. Now if you go back, you see it updated itself. All right, so I have an age. These are my local storage values, age and name. Okay, so far so good. Now if I want to get anything from my local storage, the function is called get item. So what you're going to do is you're going to say local storage dot get item, and this time it only takes one argument, which is the key. Okay, and what is the key for the one that we have stored? We have a key called name and age. So I'm trying to get the value for this key. This is going to return me a string, so I'm going to store it in a variable. And then let's go ahead and console log this so that we can verify this actually showed up. If you go to your console, shows me the name. Okay, what did I do? I said get item and a key that should exist. If it doesn't exist, it's going to say undefined or no. Okay, let's try with the age as well. So let age is equal to local storage dot get item, and this time I'm trying to get the key age. Okay, and then console log age. Okay, and there's my age. Okay, set item to store in local storage, get item to get from the local storage. Let's go back to our storage. Okay, questions? Good? Is it too easy? All right. If I want to remove, the function is called remove item. Okay, it takes in a key as well, string. So what are you trying to remove? Let's suppose I'm trying to remove age. It's going to go ahead and remove the age. Okay, please note local storage is kind of permanent. Permanent means that if you close your browser and come back to it, it will still be there. Okay, that's one thing. It does not go away unless you remove it or you use, if you want to clear everything, the local storage is called clear. This will remove everything from your storage. So make sure you understand these two methods. Maybe at the end of the program, you want to clear your storage. This is what you will use. Or if you're trying to remove a particular key, this is what you will use. Okay. Otherwise, your local storage will have this value. Okay. Any questions before I make it more confusing now? Everybody good? Yes. Is there an input? No, it does not take an input. No. If you want an input, you have remove item. Clear just means I'm going to clear everything. Okay. Any other questions? Good. Yes, Remy.
So like age and all that, like you add multiple people to something, you wouldn't be able to use it.
Right. It's going to override. Yes. Good question. So he's saying that if I have the name with multiple values, what is going to happen is going to get overwritten. Yes. If I do local storage at some point over here, and I say set item, and then I use name. Oops. And then I put in, so it's going to override it, and the first one is going to get overwritten with the second one. It's a unique key. Yes. Let's see. The documentation, I thought it only takes one argument. Yeah, looks like it only takes one argument. Okay, so you can remove one item at a time. Okay, any other questions? Good? Okay, all right. So one thing to note over here is the domain that you see over here. It says 127 this thing. Okay, it does not say the exact URL. My URL is, this is correct, but then I have local storage index.html. Okay, my storage is assigned by the domain, by this, just this. Okay, now if I run a different program, different example, let's suppose I run a local storage 2 slash index.html. It's a completely different program, different JavaScript file, but it is going to use the same storage over here. Why? Because storage is defined by the domain, not by the program or the index.html file or anything, right? As long as the domain is common, is going to use the same local storage for that. So let's suppose I write this program called local storage example, right? I'm using this name key, and then I show you another example. This time it's called local storage 2, and I'm using the same name key. What's going to happen? It's going to affect the same name key. Okay? Why? Because it is assigned by the domain. As long as this is common, everything gets assigned to the same space. This has to change if you're trying to store different variables for different projects or your activities. Okay, if you're running localhost, in this case, every example that you do is assigned the same local storage, okay, and it's going to affect the same thing. It does not matter if it's a different program, different HTML file. It does not consider that. It assigns a local storage based on your domain. Okay, so if you, let's suppose you're working on your project and your project has 4 different pages, all of them are going to get assigned the same local storage. Why? Because your domain is still going to be the same. Does everybody understand that? I heard, who said that? Okay, so do you understand what a domain is? Okay, so domain means this part over here. Okay, so www.google.com, That's the domain. Okay, so you get your local storage assigned by the domain. Anything within that domain, this is the space. So let's suppose you have www.google.com/home.html and then contact.html. It does not matter. Okay, both of them are going to have the same local storage. So if you have a variable, a key called name in your home.html and contacts.html, it's still pointing to the same one. Okay, if you don't realize that, you are basically overriding that. If that's the intention, that's okay, but it is not going to give you a new name key, or it's not separated out. Okay.
What kind of things are you gonna want to put in the local storage?
Password, social security numbers, maybe.
Besides that.
Besides that? Oh, besides that.
Besides
All right. So what do you usually put in? Usually you would put in login information, but not your password or username. Usually you would put like a, when you authenticate, it gives you like a random token, right? That is hard to crack. So you would put those over here. Why? Because you want to make sure, oh, the person has logged in, they went to a different page. You don't want them to be relogging every single page they go to. So what you do is you store that token. It's like a kind of a bit advanced for now. But what you do is you authenticate and you usually get a token, like a random 32-bit token or something. Okay, you store that, and then you go back and verify. Oh, is the token over here? Yeah, looks good. I'm not going to ask that person to relog in again. That's one of the use cases. Usually, that's what we use local. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to keep re-authenticating, and the user, every time they go to a different page, they will see sign in page. That's kind of annoying. Like, I'm just within your site, I already signed in, but when I go to a different page, it's asking me to sign in again, right? To prevent those kind of information, you kind of store it in your session storage usually, or local storage, and then verify that the information is there, and then you can go ahead and do it. Other use case could be the forms. You know, you fill out a form, right? And then you make sure you kind of store it over here so that the user doesn't have to, if they close the page, they can come back to it. Information is still there. Okay, so those kind of information you can temporarily store over here. As soon as they hit the submit button, you can clear your storage because everything is now back to your server. So those kind of some things you would store. Okay, any questions? Yes, it's still there. Local storage, it will still be there. If you close it, you come back to it, or let's see, if I, so this is there. I'm going to remove this thing, and this time I am not going to set any item. I'm going to comment this out, comment this out, comment this out. Okay, and then if you go back and you see, still I get my console logs working. Okay, I can close this program and then rerun this, and I will still, oh, sorry, run the HTML, and then if I come back to it, do you see I'm not setting anything anymore. Okay, I'm just getting it, right? So this means it's already there. That's why it's working. So this will still be there even you close it, you come back it. Unless you clear it, local storage does not get deleted. The other way is you clear your cache and browser cache, then everything goes away. Otherwise, it will still be there, even if you close and come back. Okay. So if you're using local storage, make sure if that's the purpose, make sure you remove or clear everything at the end. If that's the purpose. Okay. Any other questions? All right, so let's do this. Go back to your activity, the first one. Let's see, is it the first one or? You are going to use, oh, not the first one. Let's do the second one. Second one was a little bit easier, right? I mean, you just are getting the information and storing it. So start with the second one, the sign-in page. And this time, store that information in your local storage. The good way to test it, if you click refresh, the information should still be there. Like your web page is going to have the last information that you put in. Okay, now we are going back to our second example, second app that we created. So we are going to fix that app. So you can use what you have if you completed that part. If you did not, then the TS abstractor, or you can pull from GitLab. Is it uploaded to GitLab, the solutions? Is it those two? Yeah. Okay. Or you can pull it from GitLab. Let's see. Sign in. Okay. So which one was I working on? This one. I'm going to open the one that I solved, and then is this the one I solved? Let's see. Yeah. So this time you are basically storing all that information in your local storage now. Doesn't matter where you put it. Well, it kind of matters, but I'm not sure what you are saying. Well, the placement matters when you have the values. Yeah, this is all matters. Yeah, it has to be, yeah. If you do it before that, then there's nothing. Yeah. You can replace these console logs. That's and then or console log from the. Well, if you refresh your page, it should show up. So you are setting the information, and then you're also getting from locals. Right now, it's getting from this thing, but we want to get from our local storage now, so that it's we can assure that this is persistent, the information is there, and it shows up on our web page. Let me close this and run the. What was that?
All we have to do is get for
Yes, yes, it's on GitLab. Yes, do a git pull, get that solution. I think they have slacked it out as well, whichever you prefer. I would say do a git pull and get that information. Again, remember that if I run my current solution, it's not persistent because as soon as I refresh, it goes away. Okay, so once I'm done with this, we want to make sure that when you do a refresh, this information still is there. Um, 10 minutes? It's not that, I'm hoping. Should be pretty quick. Again, local storage dot set item, get item, player, and item. Hit some key and a value, both are string, get item, hit some get the key, and return the value, remove item, get the key, and then it removes it, doesn't return anything, whatever. Might be a boolean. Let's see what it returns. Local storage dot remove. Oh no, doesn't return anything. Player also doesn't return anything. And the API is called local storage.
So I set it first.
So still confusion. So at this point, I have my variables stored, right? These have all the values that are entered. Um, if I want to store them in my local storage, so local storage dot set item, right? Key and value pair. So my key would be, let's call it name, and the value is going to be this variable name. Okay, so because I'm getting the input, somebody enters the name, and I want it to get stored in my local storage, right? Same with age, email. So this would be, the key would be email, and I'm storing my email variable, which is over here. Okay. Um, Follow the same thing with our age and comments. Age, and then dot set item. Key is comment, and then I'm going to store comment. Okay. As you can see, I'm running a different example, but since my domain is still the same, it has some values already stored in it. Okay, so I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear before I make any changes. So I'm going to clear before I store anything. So this means that if there are any previous values and everything, is going to go ahead and clear them up. Okay. Why did it not clear? Oh, I just need to hit refresh. Nope. Oh, when the on click happens. Okay, thank you. Okay. So let's go ahead and make sure this is at least working, and then we will do the get item. So if I enter some name, email, age, and then comment. Okay, this time on submit, I should have these stored in my local storage. Okay. Now I want to make sure that my page, if I refresh it, you see it still kind of goes away, even though it's still over there, but my page is not showing. Why? Because I'm not getting it from my local storage. Okay. So over here, what I can do is I can have the same thing. This is I'm getting these comments, right? I can have the same code when the page loads, and this time I can replace it with the local storage get item. So local storage dot get item, and then the key, which would be name. This time dot get item dot get item, and then I'm getting email. Okay. Dot get item, age, and the last one is comment. And this time if I refresh my page, these should show up. It already did. It's auto refresh. The reason, because my local storage already has these values. If I refresh now, they are persistent, shows up. Okay, if I replace them, if I put in a new name, this time it's going to replace my local storage. Again, it's a unique one by defined by the domain, so that's why it gets replaced with the same keys. Okay. Eventually we'll come to a solution. We'll kind of work around these restrictions, but for now this is how it works. The key has to be unique, and then if you use the same key over and over again, it's going to replace it with new values. Okay, let's go back here. Set item, and then when I'm refreshing my page, I do a get item, goes ahead and pulls information from my local storage.
You have to have all that security stuff too.
Listen.
Yeah, the name storage, you couldn't just do local storage set item.
But I'm trying to display it on my HTML, right? That's why I have this. Yeah, you can do it, but it's just going to be there. It won't do anything. Yeah, you can get that. And then, but I'm trying to display it on my web page over here. That's why I'm putting it inside my jQuery. But please understand, it has nothing to do with jQuery. This is JavaScript API. They are giving information. I'm getting this information from my local storage and displaying it in my this ID. That's why I'm using this. You can store this in a separate variable and then pass it in. It doesn't matter. So you can do let name from local storage is equal to, and then move this out. Okay, it's just an extra variable name now. Name from local storage. Okay, still the same thing. Okay, you guys understand the set item, get item, remove, clear? Okay, so the next one we are going to look at is session storage. The only difference between session storage and local storage is that if you close your tab, you close your browser, all this information that you have stored is deleted automatically. Okay, remember in local storage, if I close this tab and I come back to it, we have tested this out that the information is still there. Okay, in session storage, the difference is if I close my tab and if I close my browser, these things will go away. These are automatically deleted. Okay, that is why it is called session. By session, it means is that it is only valid as long as your session is valid. And if I close my tab over here, my session is invalidated, my session is over. So that's why it will delete everything. Okay? That's the difference between local storage and session storage. Of course, Chrome and all the browser have a separate space for this. Okay? So we are going to look at now from the coding perspective, what are the functions for session storage. But anything that you store using session storage will be stored in your session storage section over here. As soon as you close your browser, it's going to disappear. It's going to be automatically deleted. Right now I don't have anything, but we will put the same information in our session storage and then close our browser. You will see it goes away. Okay, any questions on session storage? Do you guys understand the difference? Okay, now from the coding perspective, they are exactly the same method. There is absolutely no difference between the methods. The API is different. What do I mean? That the API is called, instead of local storage, it's called session storage. But all the methods are still the same. Set item, get item, remove item, pair. All of them are exactly the same. All you have to do is replace it with session storage. Let's go ahead and open a I'm going to open a new template and then I'm going to show you guys this one. Okay. Let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to run this one. Okay. Inspect. All right, so I'm running a totally different example, right? You guys see it? Should I have the information in my local storage over here? Will it show up? Even though my example is empty, there's nothing in my JavaScript file. I'm running this example. If I go to application and local storage, should I see something or not? Yes. And why is that? Why am I seeing all these things? Because it's the same domain. Okay, that's what I was saying. It doesn't matter. I'm running on 127.0.1.500. That's why these variables get carried over. Okay. Oh, there's a console error. Oh, good thing we tested this out. I have the wrong file name. Copy paste, but not as well. There you go. I should fix it. All good. All right. So as I said, the functions are the same. You just have to replace the API name, and this time the API is called session storage, right? Dot set item, same method, key value pair, takes in a key, put in a name. Okay, that should bring you up over here. Same thing. Okay, same rules apply over here. Let's see, if you want to get this, session storage dot get item, pass in a key, name, and let's go ahead and console log this so that we can actually see on our console. Let's create a variable. Let name is equal to session storage name. Looks nicer. I'm going to use template name from session storage, and then let's log our name. Okay, so this is coming from session storage and not from the local storage. Okay, now if you want to go back here, applications, session storage, and there's the name. Okay, now how do I verify that if I close this, it's not going to be there? If I comment this out, what's going to happen? It will work. It will console log because currently I'm still in the session, and that's why it comes back and shows me that, right? So if I close this, now if I go back and rerun this application, from our definition, what should happen to the local storage? Still there, right? Because I didn't modify the local storage. What should happen to our session storage? It shouldn't have anything, and actually I should see some error in my console log. What, not error, it's saying no, right? What am I doing? I'm saying, hey, go ahead and get this key from my session storage. Since I closed my browser, close the tab, my session storage is empty now. Okay, you see it's empty. There's no key over here. This is coming from Visual Studio since I'm running that. But there's no name key anymore over here. Again, why? Because I closed my browser and my session storage was cleared. Okay, local storage is still there. It never clears out. You have to do it manually. Or session storage, as soon as you close your browser, it's going to go ahead and any keys that you have saved is going to remove them. Okay, now what kind of information would I store in session? The earlier example that I was giving you, the login information, the tokens, that's what you would store in session. Why? Because as soon as somebody closes their browser, closes the website that you created, you want them to be logged out of everything. Usually bank application kind of do all that stuff, right? As soon as you close the browser, they will clean up everything. So just to make sure everything is cleared up, it's good to use session storage because if you missed anything in your coding also, as soon as you close your browser, everything is going to be wiped out, right? That's why you use session storage. Again, the information that you store in session storage is only valid for the session. And by the session, I mean, if you close this, goes away, close your browser, everything goes away. Okay? Any questions? Same methods over here. They have session storage dot remove. Okay, same thing. You can remove by the key, and then they also have session storage dot clear if you want to manually clear everything, even though the session is not done. There might be a case where you want to do it. Again, same thing, same functions. Only the API is different. Instead of local storage, you are using session storage, and anything that you store using this gets stored in your session storage. Same rules goes by domain. If you run this within this domain, your session is valid. Okay? Same rules as local storage. The only difference is if you close your browser, your session storage is cleared automatically. All right, any questions? No? Good? All right. Redo the same activities. Instead of local storage, do it with session storage. It's literally you are just changing it. Make sure it works. You close your browser, you come back, make sure everything is cleared up. So instead of using local storage, this time use session storage. Okay, and that should take us to lunch. And then after lunch, we will look at cookies. Again, we are doing the sign-in application. Go back to it. Instead of local storage, change it to session storage, run it, make sure it is working, verify that when you close, no information is saved, verify all those things, and that should be the end of that activity. So let me open back my example that I solved. Let's see. Sign in, unsolved. Okay, so this time we are using session storage. Done. Session working. Close it. Verify. So easiest way I would do is just replace all of them. There it is. Yeah. How did I do that? Magic. I didn't even use my mouse.
What's that?
I didn't even use a right click or anything. It's a command D.
Oh, command.
Well, command as in Mac. Control?
Yeah.
Control D in Windows. So if I run this time everything is being stored, and you see null, null, null. Why? Because I'm getting information from the session. This time my session doesn't have anything. That's why I see null, null, nulls over here. And if you put in something different, it should show up. Okay. Submit. So this time my session storage has everything. Okay. And if I close this, and come back to it, it will show me null, null, null. Okay. Why? Because as soon as I close, my session is wiped out. All right. Any questions on this? Good. So if you are still working on it, work on it. We still have 5 minutes. Otherwise, we'll take a break and we'll come back at 12:45. Okay.